Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today I'm back for another reading of my book, The Before, Now, and After Then, by me, read by me. So, are you guys ready? I know I took yesterday off. I just wanted to relax yesterday and listen to audiobooks and just like watch Netflix shows and stuff like that. So I'm back today making videos on all of my channels, and I got Boo Radley right here next to me. He's gonna be my little helper today. And we are starting on chapter 19. I woke up to a text from Rusty telling me he wouldn't be in school because he was still at the hospital with his family, but that he wanted to hang out later. I texted him back and told him to let me know when he was home. When I got to school, Cher was waiting for me by my locker again. I'm trying not to bother you since you're in love, but I was hoping I'd hear from you last night. Sorry, I got busy, I said. I'm sure, she smirked. It's cool. Just so you know, I have no friends and no boyfriend, and even my beautiful boy has become that girl who gives up all of her friends when she gets a boyfriend. I laughed. I'm not that girl. We'll see. Anyway, we're late for French. Come on. The rest of the morning was completely mundane. Conjugated verbs in French, World War II in history, and photosynthesis in botany. By lunchtime, I was starving. Cher and I had decided on pizza and grabbed 2 slices each, sitting at a table by the back, hoping to avoid Pat and his crew, even though neither one of us would admit it. Unfortunately, almost as if he had special radar, he found us only 5 minutes into lunch. Well, if it isn't my lover boy and his gangly girlfriend with the twisted tits. His friends laughed as he put his hand on my shoulder. Are you going to come over tonight and service me and my boys? Leave him alone, Cher said. Shut up, bitch. What did you say, she said, standing up, her words frosted with iciness. I said, shut up, bitch. He slammed his fist on the table and the entire cafeteria fell silent. I think maybe you should shut the fuck up, bitch. I heard the voice behind me before I saw him. Rusty. Who the fuck are you? Pat asked, turning and pointing at Rusty. I'm his boyfriend, and if you talk to him like that again, I'll beat your fucking ass, he hissed, pounding his fist on the table next to Pat. Do you understand me? It took Pat an entire minute to process what had just happened before he took Rusty by the neck and pushed him into the wall. Everyone in the cafeteria crowded around, and Cher jumped on Pat, pounding his back as Rusty kneed him, bringing Pat to his knees. I'm not fucking joking, Rusty screamed. Leave him the fuck alone. He kicked his side and started to walk away as Pat grabbed him and threw him to the ground, punching him in the face. Rusty covered his face and kneed him again, forcing Pat back to the ground. When he did, Rusty punched him in the nose and blood flew all over the both of them. Pat's friends didn't move. They just stood and watched. Cher tried to get back into the fight, but some girls pulled her back, restraining her so she wouldn't get hurt. Finally, several male teachers ran over. Break it up, they yelled, pulling Rusty and Pat apart. Both of you go to the dean's office now, and they were led away. I grabbed my backpack and followed after them as Cher caught up with me. She was out of breath. So that's him? That's your boyfriend? I nodded. Holy shit, he's hot, Cher said. Yeah, he is. When we got to the dean's office, the secretary wouldn't let us talk to the dean, even though we explained that I was the reason for the fight. They'll call you if they need you. Now go back to class. We walked out into the hallway. I can't go back to class, I said. Me neither. What do you want to do? Let's ditch and go sit in my car and wait for Rusty, I said, and turned to walk outside. That's a sexy name, Rusty. I like how it sounds rolling off my tongue. Rusty, she laughed, saying it again under her breath. That was pretty cool what he did, though. And it was. It felt like more than anyone had ever done for me in my entire life, including Sam. You helped out, too. I just wanted to have a good reason to hit Pat. He's such an asshole, Cher said, acting like she was punching him in the face. When we got to my car, we sat down low inside so no one would see us. I texted Rusty and let him know where we were and told him to meet us when we got done. Do you think they'll expel him, I asked. Who, Pat? No, Rusty, I said. Absolutely not. Pat's always picking fights, she said as she lit a cigarette. But he might get suspended. Do you think it would help if I went and talked to the dean? We tried. They don't care about kids like us. They only give a shit about kids like Pat because he brings home state championships. That's why they'll never expel him, she explained. So what do we do? Nothing. Maybe Rusty scared the shit out of him and it won't ever happen again. A few minutes later, I saw Rusty walking towards our car. He was holding a white towel up to his face. Hey, he softly called out. I got out of the car and ran up to him. What happened? I said, looking under the towel to find a dark bruise below his eye. I tried to touch it, but he flinched. We got suspended for 2 days, and the dean's going to call my mom and tell her I have to be enrolled in anger management classes before I can return. She's going to kill me, he said. Rusty looked around and saw Cher sitting up in the car listening to our conversation. Hi, she said shyly. I'm Cher. Rusty smiled, but I could tell he was upset. Can we get out of here? We got in the car and I asked Rusty where he wanted to go. He explained that his mom had dropped him off for the last half of school and then she had gone back to the hospital. I'm on my own for the rest of the night, so we can do whatever, he said as he pitched the towel out of the window, as long as it gets us away from this shithole. I pulled out of the parking lot and started driving as Cher asked Rusty 1,000 questions about where he was from and what it had been like in Boston. She even asked him if he had a brother. We drove around for a long time until Cher said she had to go home because she was going to work with her mom. When we got there, Ruth was standing in the front yard watering plants. Cher introduced Rusty to her mom and said, "This is Danny's lover." We drove away and Rusty looked over at me. I hate that word, lovers. It sounds so sexual. Well, maybe we will be, I smirked. Maybe. Thanks, Rusty, I said. For what? You know for what. For today. For beating up Pat. For the record, I didn't beat him up. We both had black eyes and suspension, so no one really won. He looked in the side view mirror at his eye, flinching again as he touched it. That's not the point. You protected me. No one's ever really done that before, except for Sam. I told you if Pat ever messed with you again, I was going to beat his ass, Rusty said, and I meant it. I know. I just didn't really think you would. Rusty reached over and kissed me. He won't be fucking with you for a long time, not as long as I'm around, he said, checking the time on his phone. It's early. We have the rest of the afternoon. What do you want to do? No, I don't care. Well, my mom's not home. And? I asked sarcastically. No one's home, he said as his lip curled into a smile. And what does that mean? Let's go to my house. Okay, I smiled. He reached over and squeezed my thigh and then slipped his finger under the edge of my shorts. He didn't go any further. He just let them rest there, lightly grazing my thigh. What are we going to do when we get to your house? I asked. I have an idea that you already know the answer to that question, he laughed. But first I need to clean up my eye. It stings really bad. What will your mom say when she sees it? She's going to be pissed. This isn't my first fight. We kind of have a deal. What's the deal? No fighting, he said blankly, looking out the window. I just don't like her worrying about me. She has so much to worry about already. I then remembered what Mom had said to me about coming to her if I ever needed her help. I think I might have an idea. What is it? He asked. Never mind, I'll tell you later. Let's just get to your house so we can take care of your eye. Rusty nodded and tried to smile, but winced from the pain. When we got to his house, no one was home, but the smell of a rapist lingered in the air. Rusty locked the door behind us and immediately walked up the stairs into his bedroom with me right behind him. We lit candles and a stick of incense, waving the smoke around the room. He turned on the record player and held up an album, Nico, Chelsea Girl. Do you like Nico? I've never heard of her, I said. He smiled and put the record on. Side B is my favorite. I love the song Chelsea Girls. He sat and watched the record spin as the folksy song started slowly, a lone flute accompanying her voice. I like it. It reminds me of something, but I'm not sure what. Rusty walked over to the bed and pulled me down with him. Hi. Hi, I said, smelling his scent of cedar again. You always smell so good. He pulled my shirt off over my head, and then I pulled his shirt off. He started to take Sam's watch off, but I stopped him. What? He asked. It was Sam's. I only take it off at night. Rusty nodded and fell onto his back. I traced a line of dark hair around his belly button with my finger and started unbuttoning his shorts. Slow down, he laughed. We're not in any hurry. He pulled me down on top of him and I could feel the warmth of his body under me. We kissed and explored each other as the songs faded into each other in the background, one after another until the record was done. Rusty stood up quickly and walked over to the record player. He pulled out the album I had bought him, realizing it had 4 records. Which one is best? Start with Just Like Heaven, I said. The song started and Rusty stood up. He smiled at me and started dancing slowly to the guitar riffs, going up and down with the chords of the keyboard. As I started singing the words I had known almost all my life, Rusty started unbuttoning his shorts, finally letting them drop to the floor. He stood there swaying side to side in a pair of Hanes briefs, obviously excited. His curly black hair flopped crazily on his head while he danced. I laid back and put my arms over my head, singing the words to the song, and watched the best show I had ever seen. It felt like we were the only ones in the whole world trapped in some idyllic dream inside of his bedroom filled with wild beast stuffed animals and sandalwood incense. Rusty jumped on the bed and pulled my shorts and underwear off, leaving me completely naked. Instead of feeling exposed, I felt extremely comfortable, turning on my side and letting my legs slide under his cool sheets. Rusty joined me under the sheets and took off his underwear, tossing them behind him as we started kissing. His body pressed up against mine. I closed my eyes and realized that it didn't feel forced. It felt natural. It felt right. His body felt perfect next to mine. I liked the feeling of his legs intertwined with mine. I liked knowing that he was excited because he was with me and nobody else. I stopped kissing him and touched the bruise under his eye. And I never took care of your eye. Yes, you did. It doesn't hurt at all anymore, he said, smiling, and then he started kissing me again. We spent the rest of the afternoon discovering each other's bodies, the similarities and the differences. We found out what felt good and what didn't, but most of it felt good. And just when I didn't think we could get any closer to each other, we found new ways. The only thing that lasted between us was the truth of how we felt about each other. When it began getting dark outside, Rusty turned to me. Did I meet all of your porno fantasies? I laughed. All of them. Really? He said. I mean, there's still stuff I want to do, but we can wait. What stuff? You know, I said, turning the other way. No, I don't know. No, I don't know, he teased, pulling me back towards him. I'm not going to say it just because you want to hear it out loud. But what if I don't know what you want and I never do it because you don't tell me? I laughed. You're an asshole. You know what I'm talking about. Maybe, he laughed back. Is that really something you want to do? I nodded. I think so. Honestly, it scares me, but I'd like to try it with you. How do we know who does what? Rusty seemed nervous for the first time that day. Why can't we just figure it out as we go like we did today? He smiled. You make everything seem so easy. And then we were back at it again until my phone started buzzing on the floor. I grabbed it and saw I had 3 missed calls from my mom. I should probably call her, I said, sitting up, immediately self-conscious of calling my mom while I sat there naked. She asked me what time I was going to be home and asked if Rusty wanted to come over for dinner. I told her yes, and that we would be home in an hour. Just enough time to figure out some of the answers to your questions, I said, turning the record over. As the speaker started pumping the Cure's icing sugar, I looked at Rusty. Sit back. Now it's my turn to dance. Chapter 20. Oh my God, on time. Rusty was concerned what I would tell my mom about his eye. The truth, I said as we pulled into the driveway. Sherry thinks I'm bullied all the time, so at least she'll think someone's looking out for me. But that wasn't what happened at all. Rusty, do you know how bad you could have been hurt? She semi-screamed. Rusty blinked painfully as Mom applied ointment to his bruise. I do not tolerate violence. She looked up at Alex, who just shrugged his shoulders. Did you get him really good? Alex inquired. Yeah, Rusty said. Attaboy, Alex jested, cracking open a beer can. If you can't beat him, then beat him up. Alex, Mom shouted. Do not encourage these boys to fight, especially not with your track record. Alex laughed and nodded. Did you used to get into fights? Rusty asked Alex. I had to. You did not have to, Mom interjected. No, you're right. If I wanted to continue to let your mom protect me and cause a scene every day in the cafeteria, shouting at the top of her lungs, then I wouldn't have had to fight, but I just got sick of it. Oh, my water is over there. I need a drink of water. I thought about Cher and how she had come to my rescue. What happened? Yes, Mom laughed. Tell them. Alex sat down on one of the stools at the kitchen island. I was tired of being picked on. It was relentless. Every day I was called names, tripped in the halls, and pushed into lockers. They even vandalized my cars. Teachers never did anything about it, he said, taking a sip of his beer. Your mom even made me talk to my counselor about it, but she told me to get over it. That a little bit of teasing would just make me stronger. Can you believe that? A little bit of teasing? It was pretty bad, Mom replied as she kissed Rusty's cheek to let him know she was done. So anyway, this guy named Mike Shaughnessy was the worst. He was kind of the ringleader, Alex said. Mike Shaughnessy, what an asshole, Mom muttered. Yeah, Mike Shaughnessy. He had this beautiful sob that was his pride and joy. Anyway, he wouldn't stop, so I asked around and found out different ways to destroy a car. One day while we were in class, I went outside and put sand in the gas tank, superglued his windshield wipers down, and caulked all of his doors shut. Rusty immediately started laughing. That's perfect. I thought so, Alex said. Except someone saw him, Mom chimed in, and then he was expelled. They expelled you for that, I asked. Alex nodded. But not before Mike Shaughnessy and 3 of his friends waited for me after work one day and beat the shit out of me, leaving me for dead in the dumpster at McDonald's. Seriously, I asked, surprised that I had never heard of this story. But I thought you graduated from high school with Mom and Dad. Alex shook his head. Nope, I got a job slinging burgers and got my GED. What happened after that? What happened to Mike Shaughnessy? Rusty asked. Alex looked at Mom and they both started laughing. My parents pulled some strings and got me into IU. I wrote a bestseller and now I'm sitting here with you. He swigged his beer. Mike Shaughnessy is the manager of the gas station by your high school. Mom laughed to herself. See, some of the things moms tell you do come true. My mom said I was going to become a lawyer, marry a nice Jewish girl, and give her lots of grandchildren, Alex laughed. It's not funny. The outcome could have been worse. You could have ended up dead, Mom said, slapping his arm. I understand that, Alice, and we've had this conversation 10,000 times, but there comes a point when you can only take so much. I think if the schools and the parents aren't going to do anything about it, then maybe we need to start teaching kids to fight back. He patted Rusty's back. I'm proud of you, kid, but she's right. You could have gotten really hurt, even if that makes me sound like a complete hypocrite. Well, I am going to do something about it, Mom said. What? I asked. I don't know, but I told you if you ever needed help to come to me, and now you're coming to me, so I'm not going to let you down. Just please don't make it worse, Mom, okay? I mean, don't get Pat into more trouble because then it will just make it worse for me. Mom stood up and hugged me from behind. Just let me take care of it. But Rusty, I think you should stay here tonight since your mom is still at the hospital and all 3 of us can go to school together in the morning and talk to the dean, she said. Call your mom and tell her you're staying here tonight in separate rooms and let me introduce myself. Rusty and I looked excitedly at each other. Separate rooms, Mom said again. He dialed his mother and spoke to her in Spanish for a few minutes and then handed the phone to Mom. She walked into her bedroom and closed the door before talking. Do you guys want to order pizza or Chinese? Alex asked. I guess no one cooks in this family, Rusty laughed. I responded, my dad is the cook. I could eat pizza every day, Rusty said. This week, I feel like I have, I laughed, rummaging through the refrigerator for a couple of Dr. Peppers. Alex took our orders and called in the pizza. Mom walked out of the bedroom, shaking her head. She's not very happy with you. I'm getting the feeling maybe your mom isn't as progressive thinking as I am. Not at all, but she tries, Rusty said. It's hard, Mom rustled my hair. You just want your child to be safe. Anyway, she said she'd rather you stay here than be at home alone, and she's comfortable with me talking to the dean. She explained to me about your sister. That's horrible. It must be so hard on your family. It's hardest on my sister, Rusty said, looking down. And your dad, Mom asked. Rusty looked over at me, unsure what to say. His dad is still in Venezuela. Anyway, what is this, 20 questions? I interjected. Mom rolled her eyes. I suggested to her that maybe we should all get together sometime and have a family dinner. I couldn't tell if she thought that was a good thing or not. Rusty smiled, but I could tell this idea made him nervous. Do you want to go for a swim before the pizza gets here, I asked. Sure, Rusty excitedly responded, wasting no time in standing up and changing the conversation. We walked upstairs to change into swim trunks. While Rusty was changing, I walked in the laundry room to grab some towels and overheard Mom and Alex talking. This is really serious, Alex said. I know, did you see that poor kid's eye? It's going to be black for weeks. I'm not talking about the fight, Alex whispered. What do you mean? They're in love. Mom laughed. Alex, they've only known each other for a few days. They couldn't possibly be in love. Do you think love is measured in time, Alex asked. I'm telling you, Alice, those boys are in love. It's just the first boy Danny has ever had a crush on. It's not that deep, Mom said. Open your eyes and see what's going on here, because this is either going to end up being the best thing that ever happened to him or the worst thing that ever happened to him, and either way, he's going to need you. I could hear Alex crack open another can of beer. I waited to make sure their conversation was over, and I tiptoed back to my room. Where were you, Rusty asked, standing in one of Sam's old swimsuits that had been mixed in with mine in the drawer. Can you take that off? That was Sam's. Yeah, sorry, he apologized, quickly dropping the shorts to the floor. Are you mad? About what? The swimsuit, Rusty asked, holding it up. No, I said, grabbing it and tossing it to the floor. Rusty was completely nude, standing in the middle of my bedroom, and something about it seemed so wrong and so right at the same time that I couldn't help myself, and I walked over and kissed him. I feel like I'm breaking the rules. We don't have any rules, he reminded me as he began kissing me back. My mom has rules, I said, squeezing his butt as I walked out of the door. Grab another pair of trunks and hurry up. They'll start wondering why we're taking so long. I walked downstairs and out onto the patio. Mom and Alex were sitting on our outside couches, smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. You guys look like you should be in high school and we should be the parents. Very funny, Mom said. Come here for a minute, Danny. I walked back up to her as the reflection of the pool lights danced off the side of the house. You really like him, don't you? I nodded. She stared at me in silence for a long time, squinting her eyes like she was looking for something she couldn't see. Okay, then I like him too, and she smiled. I turned and started walking to the pool as Rusty ran past me and jumped in, yelling "Cannonball!" right before he splashed water everywhere. The warm water rippled around us, and we swayed with its rhythm. I wish I could kiss you right now, Rusty whispered. Why don't you then? I'm not going to kiss you like that in front of your mom and Alex. Okay, I said, and I dove under the water, pulling his legs out from underneath him. We wrestled in the water and hit each other with the giant noodles floating in the pool until Mom called us and told us the pizza had come. Once she and Alex had walked inside, Rusty rushed over and kissed me, slicking my hair back out of my face. I had a great time with you today. Me too, I said. And I'm super stoked I get to stay over. Me too. We kissed until I looked over Rusty's shoulder and saw Alex standing at the top of the hill by the door, motioning for us to come inside. After we ate, Mom and Alex went back outside and we decided to watch a movie in the living room. Do you want to watch something scary, I asked, hoping Rusty liked scary movies as much as I did. Yeah, I love horror movies, he said as I turned off the lights and stretched out on the couch next to him. When Mom came inside to go to bed, she looked at us snuggled together on the couch, but didn't say anything. She walked over and kissed my cheek. Love you, Danny. As she walked away, she said, Night, Rusty, and patted his head. Alex sat outside on the patio and read while we watched the movie. When it was over, he walked inside and reminded us that we were to sleep in separate bedrooms. He gently reminded us, if you were straight, Rusty probably wouldn't even be allowed to sleep over here, so be cool. I agreed and showed Rusty to the guest bedroom on the main floor next to Mom's bedroom. Alex turned the lights off behind me to make sure I didn't linger downstairs. It's not like we have to be together all the time. We don't need a babysitter, I said. Uh-huh, Alex prodded as he laughed. Just keep on moving. He said his goodnights when we got to my room, and I heard him walk into his room and close the door. Rusty and I texted back and forth for the next hour, and it was strange imagining him one floor below me. Finally, I looked at the clock and saw that it was almost 2, so I said goodnight and put the phone on my nightstand. I fell asleep quickly and woke up just as quickly, thinking it was morning, but noticed it was still dark outside. I was so comfortable I didn't even realize, until I looked at the clock and saw that it was after 4, that Rusty had snuck into my room and was asleep in his boxers, holding me tightly from behind. His hair hung over one eye, and he was sleeping so soundly that I didn't want to wake him. But I knew if we were caught sleeping in the same room, Mom would never let him stay over again. "Rusty," I whispered. He stirred but didn't wake. "Rusty," I whispered again, shaking him lightly. His eyes opened slowly and he yawned, breathing his sweet breath into my face. Sleeping with Rusty was starting to become one of my favorite things. He smiled and wiped his eye. "Hi," he sleepily answered. "Hi," I said, smiling in the darkness. "I thought I would surprise you." "You did. But you think I should go, right?" he asked. "Yeah, I don't want to get us into trouble. My mom is being really cool." "I know, I just wanted to sleep next to you again," he yawned. "What is it about sleeping next to someone that feels so close and personal?" I thought about Mom and Alex's conversation I had overheard earlier in the night. "Rusty?" "Yeah," he whispered. Our voices were hidden in the secret recesses between the whir of the fan and the stillness of the late night. We were so close. "Can I tell you something?" I asked. "Anything." I could feel his chest move up and down as he breathed in and out, his lips touching my lips, his nose touching my nose. We were so close. "I love you," I said. I could feel his lips moving on top of mine even before he spoke. "I love you too, Danny." Chapter 21. Yes, I'm giving you another chapter today because I didn't make the video yesterday. Chapter 21. Rusty left my room right before 6 as I held the door open for him so he could sneak out quietly. I took a shower and got ready for school, again wearing my Levi's rolled up to my calves and the black t-shirt I had worn the first day we had hung out, trying to look cute for him. Downstairs, Mom, Rusty, and Alex were sitting at the kitchen table eating cinnamon rolls and whispering. "Good morning, Danny," Mom said. By the way she looked at me, I felt like she knew Rusty had stayed in my room even though we hadn't been caught. Come get a cinnamon roll before we head to school." "What are you guys whispering about?" I asked. Rusty smiled. "I'm planning a surprise for you." "We're planning a surprise for you, but it was Rusty's idea," Mom said. "What is it?" "If we tell you, then it wouldn't be a surprise, would it?" Mom said as she tipped the sailboat coffee mug to her lips. "If we tell you, then it wouldn't be a surprise, would it?" Mom said as she tipped the sailboat coffee mug to her lips. We sat around the table and made jokes while we ate. For the first time since Sam was gone, it felt like we were a real family. Our strange combination of misfits, Mom, son's boyfriend, and Mom's gay best friend. It suddenly made me miss Dad. Mom followed us to school in her car. When we got there, she explained that she wanted us to let her talk to the dean first, and then if he had any questions, she would have us come into the meeting. School hadn't started yet, and students were still piling in from the parking lot and getting off of the buses. We walked into the dean's office, and Mom explained that she needed to talk to him, detailing how she was involved with the incident. She motioned for me and Rusty to sit and wait for her. She was finally called into his office, and she turned to me and smiled. "I'll take care of this, buddy." She had never called me that before. To the kids walking by, seeing us sitting there, it probably looked like we were in trouble, and in some way, that's how it felt. I could tell Rusty was nervous. "Don't worry," I said. "She'll handle it." He smiled, but I could tell he wasn't sure. For the first few minutes, I could only make out the sound of muffled voices on the other side of the dean's office door, but the voices grew louder, and within a few minutes, the rage coming from my mother behind that door was unbelievable. The alarm in her voice spread through the outer office and into the hallway. "Do you mean to tell me you're just going to let this kid get away with this?" she shouted. "And my son has to continue to come to school every day, afraid for his life?" Kids in the hallway started to stop at the outer door to see what was happening. "Calm down, Mrs. Goldstein," I heard the dean say. "Do not tell me to calm down," Mom belted. "I've already lost one son and I refuse to lose another. Do you understand me?" The secretary stood up and closed the outer office door to the hallway, nervously smiling at me and Rusty. "Yes, but there is no protocol," the dean continued. "Fuck your protocol," Mom continued. Rusty looked over at me and smiled. The secretary raised her hand to her mouth and shook her head. "Now you listen to me. You are going to lift any suspension and punishment against Rusty Gonzalez. He will not be attending anger management classes, and he will not miss one day at school. That boy has been through enough already and needs to be there for his family. Rusty looked down at the ground as Mom continued. And if my son has one more altercation with anyone in this school that goes unreported or is not dealt with as a matter of life or death, when kids are killing themselves all over this country because of bullying, I will be contacting the Indiana Civil Liberties Union, the Huffington Post, CNN, and Ellen fucking DeGeneres. Do you understand me? There was a long silence before I heard the small voice of the dean respond, "Yes, Mrs. Goldstein, I think you've made yourself perfectly clear." The door swung open and Mom stood there in a black social distortion t-shirt and black leggings with heels. She looked like some badass teenager turned adult assassin, turning to crack her neck before slowly and very calmly putting on her Chanel sunglasses. "I think Angst Alice is back," she said, turning to me and Rusty. "Let's go, boys. You need to get to class." We walked out and Mom said goodbye, kissing both of us, as if Rusty was her son too. "Call me if you have any problems." Rusty looked at me and smiled. "Your mom is really cool. Sometimes." "I need to get to class," he said, reaching over and kissing me in the middle of the hallway as other students walked around us. But no one said anything. "See you at lunch?" "Definitely. I'll wait for you by my locker." How many more pages is this? I'm losing my voice. "Definitely. I'll wait for you by my locker." I reached up and lightly touched the bruise under his eye. He nodded and kissed me one more time before walking away. When I got to my first class, Cher was waiting for me. She had deserted the black morning outfit for a red swing dress, red lipstick, and her hair rolled back. She looked like the queen of Rockabilly Nation. "Dude, what happened? Everyone's talking about how your mom totally went off on the dean." I told her what had happened and she laughed, thumping her desk with her fist as she replied, "I wish I had seen it. That shit never happens when I'm around." I pointed to her outfit. "You look pretty, but I thought you were in mourning." She looked from shoulder to shoulder and then shook her head. "I'm over all of that. I'm recreating myself." All right, I have like 8 more pages, so I'm going to stop now in the middle of chapter 21, because we're kind of like in a space right here. So I'm going to stop there in the middle of 21, and I will be back tomorrow. I hope you guys are staying healthy. I hope you're staying safe and staying sane through all this. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.